What is sleep paralysis and is it dangerous? Patients often come to me with the question, "Doctor, save me from sleep paralysis." And there's a huge number of queries on the internet about this too, because it really is such a terrifying situation. And now we'll try to figure out what it is, whether paralysis is dangerous, and how to deal with it. If you watch this video to the end, I'll tell you an effective technique on how to quickly get out of sleep paralysis. What is sleep paralysis? Let's turn to the physiology of sleep. It's interesting that any healthy person, when they sleep and see dreams, they are in paralysis. This is a special protective mechanism that allows us to sleep peacefully when the brain is actively working and seeing dreams, sending commands, run, chase, fight, and the body is immobilized. So, when rapid eye movement sleep or dream sleep occurs, rapid eye movement is rapid eye movement, fast eye movement. That is, a person is sleeping, and his eyes are running under closed eyelids. This is actually the person seeing a dream. When the brain starts to see a dream, it as if lives in this dream. It commands, let's go there, go here, fight, run, chase. And the person is immobilized because a neurochemical block arises between the brain and the spinal cord, and impulses from the brain do not pass to the spinal cord, and accordingly, the person is immobilized. But sometimes a situation arises when a person has woken up, but this mechanism has not passed, and the person is already conscious, but cannot move. And naturally, this is a quite frightening situation because how come I'm immobile? I give myself a command to move my hand, but it absolutely does not move. But this is still a half victory. The thing is that sleep paralysis is often accompanied by so-called hallucinations upon awakening or falling asleep, so-called hypnagogic or hypnopompic hallucinations, medical terms. Part of the brain is asleep, and part of the brain has woken up. Most often this happens when a person has some kind of circadian rhythm disruption. For example, he is on a shift schedule or around-the-clock work schedule or daytime sleep, when it is also not quite physiological for this person. When a person is sleep-deprived, and accordingly, he has an expressed sleep deficit. So there is some kind of disruption between certain areas or centers of the brain. Imagine a situation when a portion of the brain is asleep, dreaming, and concurrently experiencing sleep paralysis, resulting in person's immobilization, and part of the brain has woken up and is starting to perceive the surrounding environment. And it turns out that this part of the brain, which sees the surrounding environment, realizes that the person is awake. And sleep is imposed on this part of the brain into wakefulness. And the person begins to see various images of people, animals, demons, household spirits, and so on. Moreover, as a rule, these are somewhat frightening things. That is, some demons are sitting, not letting you breathe. We will also talk about why a person has a feeling that he cannot breathe. And it turns out that the person is immobilized, and some miracles fall on him. If you've had sleep paralysis, and especially if you've seen these scary images of household demons and the like, give this video a like. What's intriguing about this mechanism is that one feels as if suffocated by a demon sitting on them. There are two types of breathing regulation. The first is conscious, meaning we can control our breathing or choose to hold our breath. And there's the unconscious one, when the respiratory center reacts exclusively to the biochemical state of oxygen, carbon dioxide. And when we sleep, we don't feel whether we're breathing or not. This happens in automatic mode. So, when sleep paralysis occurs, breathing works in automatic mode. A man wakes up, he sees some kind of demon, and our startle or stress response is always accompanied by us starting to breathe quickly and frequently. And the person starts trying to breathe quickly and frequently, he sends commands to try to inhale, but he can't. And this feeling of fear arises that the person gives a command, but the breathing does not react to this command at all. It works on its own. A feeling of chest tightness arises, like there's nothing to breathe with, sometimes even suffocation. But in reality, the brain is not a fool. It works in accordance with some biochemical requests, and what the brain sends some commands in a dream, it, to put it bluntly, doesn't care. That is, in general, no matter how strange, once again, this is a physiological reaction. But this psyche, which is embedded in physiology of course, somehow spoils the whole normal process of sleep. People, by the way, love to comment on my favorite videos about sleep paralysis, because it's also beautiful. it's also emotional. Please also write your comments to this video. How you had sleep paralysis, were there any miracles, how you dealt with it, and maybe I will give you some recommendations on how to react to this and how to deal with it. Sleep paralysis can occur in absolutely healthy people, but there is sleep paralysis and these hallucinations as a symptom of a serious enough disease called narcolepsy. It's quite rare, that is. It's a few people per 100,000 population, but it causes a lot of problems. In particular, people can even become disabled because of this, and in particular, they are forbidden to drive a car. The same sleep paralysis occurs with narcolepsy. Hallucinations when waking up or falling asleep. But there is one more cardinal symptom, so-called cataplexy. When a person experiences strong emotions, say he got scared of something or laughed, he experiences a sharp drop in muscle tone. Sometimes it's partial. Well, partial. He might drop a circle, or his knees might buckle, and a person can even fall down. And sometimes a person can just fall down and fall asleep. That's why emotions can trigger the rapid onset of rapid eye movement, sleep, dreams, and a person can have a neurochemical block right here. The person falls and falls asleep and can sleep for a while. This is what is called cataplexy. A person develops severe daytime sleepiness. There's a saying that try to stay awake for 3 days, or at least 2, and you'll feel what a narcolepsy patient feels, who is awake for 8 hours. For some reason, the mechanism in these patients breaks down in such a way that literally 2-3 hours of wakefulness and a person begins to feel sleepy. Moreover, so-called imperative sleepiness, a person begins to fall asleep right in the process of activity. The same outcome as someone sleep-deprived for 3 days. And it desensitizes a person. A person simply can't work for a long time, stand on the assembly line for 8 hours. That's one thing. And secondly, there's always a risk that some strong emotion will cause a drop, a loss of tone, and sleepiness. Well, okay, if a person is just there, I don't know, sitting in a chair and smiling. But if a person is driving a car at a speed of 62 miles and someone honked at him from behind and he got scared, lost tone and fell asleep at the wheel of the car, naturally this drowsiness disrupts a person's life and job. And often this disease starts in school, and such children are told, yes, you are lazy. Why do you fall asleep in classes? Teachers start to scold, parents start to take them to doctors, but doctors can't find anything. In this situation, you still need to turn to, if your child or you yourself, or even in an adult state, began to experience the heaviest daytime sleepiness with naps every 2-3 hours during the day, or maybe 4-5 hours, and even more so the attacks of cataplexy, that is, loss of tone, then you need to turn to doctors to undergo the appropriate examination and diagnose narcolepsy. Unfortunately, it is impossible to completely cure this disease, but the use of certain medication treatment allows to reduce the degree of sleepiness, allows to significantly remove the attacks of cataplexy, that is, in general, to socialize a person. And more than that, usually such people are given recommendations for choosing free professions. Well, for example, a programmer who can work at home or in the office, but can go and sleep at any moment. Interestingly, if a person literally sleeps there for 20-30 minutes, he is absolutely alert and healthy and cheerful for 2-3 hours and can work. Then, drowsiness returns, and you need another half hour of sleep. In this sense, if a person is in a free profession, he can take such naps, and in this regard, he can still function and work in his profession more or less normally. Roman, there is a movie called Men on Call. One of the girls, she is sick with narcolepsy. Does this really happen? Let's take a look. I have narcolepsy, a sleep disorder. It's not the direst circumstance. I can't fly a plane, drive a car, or work in a tire shop. What a pleasure. I've always wanted to try soup, but I was afraid of choking. It's a bit exaggerated, yes, that is, well, but it really reflects the situation. So you saw, especially on emotions it was, and when she experienced negative or positive emotions, it leads to an instantaneous loss of tone, and a person can stand and fall asleep, well as shown here. So it's, of course, funny, but in reality it's very sad why actually you can't control an airplane, a car, and some dangerous mechanisms as well. Sleep paralysis is provoked by some sleep disturbances, and in particular, if a person is sleep-deprived, shift work schedule, and so on, and insomnia is potentially also a risk factor for paralysis. I recently wrote a book, Insomnia and Stress: How to Break the Vicious Circle, and in the description of this video, you can get a link to this book. There are 12 steps on how to get rid of insomnia. Adjusting your sleep can greatly reduce the possibility of sleep paralysis. To minimize the likelihood of sleep paralysis, you simply need to maintain a normal lifestyle and sleep hygiene. And adhering to a sleep schedule does not lead to you accumulating some kind of sleep deficit. Because as we like to go to bed late in the middle of the week, we need to get up early for work in the morning. A sleep deficit accumulates. And, by the way, it is described that sleep paralysis occurs more often on the background of sleep deficit on weekends. This can be triggered during the day when you lay down to sleep. Similarly, cutting out daytime sleep reduces the chance of sleep paralysis. But this again speaks to the fact that you should get enough sleep at night, then you won't need to lie down during the day. Generally, a healthy lifestyle reduces the risk of sleep paralysis. What should you do if you find yourself in sleep paralysis, plus with these hallucinations, with these monsters, demons, and smoke? Remember, I said that this is how rapid eye movement sleep, the dream phase, occurs. The eyes are closed, the eyelids are closed, but underneath them, the eyes are moving. The only thing we retain the ability to move is our eyes. If you wake up, sometimes you won't even be able to open your eyelids because you have to wait for the command, and the eyelids don't open. But the eyes, you can give them a command to look here and there, and you just start quickly moving your eyes from side to side, or in a circle like this. Yes. And after that, as a rule, motor activity begins to recover, primarily of the facial muscles, that is, on the face. Then you can open your eyes, you can wink at this miracle, or you can squint. That is, start trying to move, so to speak, the facial muscles, smile, grimace, and so on. And after that, other movements recover quite quickly, because if you just lie there without moving and wait for it to pass, it can take, a minute or two. But if you start moving your eyes, blinking, and squinting quickly enough, it can take just a few seconds. Another thing I want to say is that when you explain to people that this is a physiological state, that essentially you have nothing to breathe. It's not demons. It's hard for you to breathe. It's not demons. It's just a feature of the physiology of breathing, that it's some kind of out-of-body experience. That is, you are kind of waking up, but you don't feel your body. And I even read a study once when they conducted such a consultation to explain everything, somewhere 10–15% of people start to get their own kind of pleasure from this. Well, it's a different experience, yes, but what I will feel, and how I will communicate with this demon, and how I will not feel my body, that is, as strange as it sounds, I understand that this can be not so much a great pleasure, but as a different additional experience. It can be very interesting to people. And even I sometimes get requests, doctor, what to do to enter sleep paralysis, but I don't give such advice at all. But I basically said that if you don't sleep enough, disrupt the regime and so on, then the likelihood of entering sleep paralysis will be greater. But still, I recommend leading a healthier lifestyle and not bringing yourself to sleep paralysis.